Hi, everyone. Welcome. Uh, How are you doing today? How does your week go? So, Bentley says hello. All right. So, today we're going to talk about setting boundaries. This is so setting boundaries for yourself. You need to set boundaries in both your personal life and in your professional life. Why is this important? It's important for your mental health. You need to figure out what works for you. Like, when I say that, like, how many days in a row can you work before you start getting brain fog? Like, or slow down, or making mistakes that you don't usually make. Can you work 3 days in a row? Can you work 4 days in a row? What is your limit? You need to, once you figure this out, then you need to stick with it on your schedule. So you need to go to whoever's doing your schedule saying, all right, I can only do 3 days in a row. I can only work 4 days in a row. After that, it's not best for the patient. It's not what's best for the patient. It's not what's best for the staff, and it's not what's best for me. Because animals' lives count on it. All right, think about that. If you figuring out, like, if you're working in a brain fog, if you're working, if you're making mistakes, if you're fatigued, you don't want someone like that working on your animal, do you? I know I wouldn't. This right here, this is my child. This is my baby. I want nothing but the best for him. And I also feel about the same about other animals, because I love animals that much. I feel that every animal should deserve the best, and they deserve your best. They don't deserve being, they don't deserve someone who is brain fogged or make a mistake or anything like that. They deserve the best. So you need to figure out what you can do. Or you can think about it this way. I know sometimes doctors separate themselves from their patients. So what if it was like your child or a loved one, your spouse, your mother, your father? Would you want a doctor going in doing surgery on them that was brain fogged, or was dealing with something else, or was too tired or making mistakes, like, because they were overworked? No, you wouldn't. Unfortunately, you guys have the job that you have very little room for error to make. And so that's, I applaud you for that. I think you guys are amazing for that. But I say that in a sense, excuse me. I say that in a sense of just, that's why it's important for you to find out what your boundary is and set your boundary and stick to it. Okay. I'm also one of these people. I feel if your management team does not understand that, whoever does the schedule, whoever your manager is, does not do that, then, or doesn't understand that, then one, you don't need to work for them, or two, they don't need to be in the profession. Because at that point, it's just about profit for them. They don't care about you. They need to, they need to work for their employees and their patients. That's just how I feel from a manager perspective. My parents always taught me that. My parents were wonderful managers. I learned a lot from them with business. That's how I feel about management. So with that, how do you incorporate this into your life? So you have to learn to say no. Who has trouble saying no? I have trouble saying no. My husband has trouble saying no. He's gotten a lot better at it. We've been working on this for years. I've been working on myself, doing it for years as well, so I can't put blame on him. But what we did with him was, when he was always asked if he could work a shift, he would always say yes, because he wanted to feel like a team player. I get it. I'm the same way. He didn't want to let his team down. He wanted, he felt he was doing disservice if he said no, instead of looking after himself. This can lead to early burnout for you. So what we implemented was, he started getting in the habit, when he was asked if he could work a shift, he would get in the habit of saying, well, let me check with my significant other. Let me check with B to find out. Let me check with me. Now it's my wife. But at the time, he's like, let me check to see, what I have planned. Let me see if I have anything going on. Let me check and get back to you. When he started doing that on a regular basis, then he could go, that gave him time to sit, first of all, to see if he had anything planned already. Second of all, to sit down and look at the schedule and see where it falls into his schedule, and to see if he would actually be able to do it. Because sometimes it may work out that you can do that shift. Sometimes it may work out no, because it goes past your limits and what you're capable of doing. And so, you can get in the habit of saying, hey, let me get back to you with that. I can't, I need to see if I have anything planned, see if I have, my significant other. I tell them all the time, throw me under the bus, because I'll flat out tell somebody, especially when it comes to animals, my husband, my family, and their mental health and well-being, I'll flat out tell them, like, look, no, like, this is what, you can't do it. Like, this is good for, this is what's best for the patient. This is what's best for him. And most importantly, this is what's best for your business. Even as business owners, you don't want employees working for you that are making mistakes that could lead to, legal actions, people, if you own a vet clinic, you really need to think about that with your employees. If they make a mistake, if it's just because they're overworked, then it could lead to a litigation. That owner could be that person who goes to the medical board or who decides to sue you. Let me tell you, I also would be that owner. I would be that one that, you mess with my animal, that's the wrong person to mess with. So yes, so just saying that, like, just keep that in mind when people tell you they can't do the schedule, they're overworked or they're overburdened, and make sure you have whoever is doing the schedule is trained to do that. They're trained to listen to that. They're trained to understand that and what they are going through. There was one case in one hospital, like, trying to figure out the best schedule for my husband, and the one scheduler, she was amazing. She came up with great ideas. It's, to me, doing the schedule is like doing a puzzle. I love doing puzzles. You kind of fit in and what works best for everyone. And she was really good at what she did. And then they decided to move her to another job for whatever reason. And why they were hiring somebody, they had somebody else do the schedule, and she screwed up every doctor's schedule, like ER doctor schedule. And her response is like, oh, well, you should have told me. Like, well, you never gave them a chance to tell you to begin with. But also too, she kind of like put it off, like, oh, well, whatever, and she was in breach of some of the contracts and everything. And some doctors left because of that one person and her response to it. And if it hadn't been for that, they wouldn't have lost doctors. We all know now is not the time in the veterinarian world to lose doctors or technicians. There's shortage of doctors, and there's going to be a shortage of doctors for a while, for years. So so this, something to keep in mind. Make sure your scheduler is well trained to understand that, the needs and limitations of some of these doctors. All right, sorry, I got off on my whole soapbox there. That just kind of perturbs me. Anyways, so also too, other things you can do is when you're at home, like practice saying no to yourself in the mirror. Just you can also do that, like, because not only do you need to set boundaries for your professional life, your work life, you also need to set boundaries for your personal life. So that's also a good place to, if, yes, like going out, doing things, having fun is a good distraction, a good way to, kind of debrief and work off what you've been going through at work. But also at the same time, like, so is resting. So is sitting at home and watching TV, playing video games. Sometimes you just need to do whatever your mental headspace tells you want to do at the time. And, going out can also, though it can relieve some stress, it can also, tire you out and not allow you to get rest. So you're going to have to find that happy medium balance of whether you want to go out or you don't want to go out. Other thing is if you have family members or friends asking you to do things for you, or do things for them, not for you, for them, then if you don't feel like doing it, tell them no. Don't let them guilt trip you into it. That is the worst thing you can do. You need to do what's best for you, because even at the end of the day, how you handle your personal life still affects your work life. Because if you're not rested, if your head is somewhere else, a lot of times you can leave it at the door, but sometimes there's going to be those moments you can't leave it at the door. That's going to happen. So you also need to be able, keep in mind that what you do there does affect your work as well. Okay. Awesome. So how do you set boundaries? It's the most difficult thing to do, right? There's a couple of books. So find a book that interests you, that talks about setting boundaries. One book that was recommended, I haven't read it yet. It is on my to-read list, but it's Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free, The Ultimate Guide to Telling the Truth, Creating Connection, and Finding Freedom by Nancy Levin. Another book is called Boundaries, When to Say Yes, How to Say No to Take Control of Your Life by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Now, this book you've probably seen is more, I call it the more popular book. I go to a lot of bookstores. I love books. And it's the one with the red pencil kind of drawing, and it's red line. It says boundaries on it. That's that book. Also too, find a book that works for you. If neither one of them sound interested, don't read them. Because I say that these are two that I heard of doesn't mean it's something that's going to relate to you. And of course there's audio books, this day and age, everybody has a podcast, like I'm talking right now, but yes, everybody has a podcast. There are podcasts on setting boundaries. YouTube, again, I know, talking to myself. But yes, but there's plenty of them out there. Google it. And of course, there is an app for everything nowadays. So I'm sure there's an app for setting boundaries. So yes, it's find what works best for you. And And make sure you set the boundaries because, these little ones matter. Your life matters. Okay? So it is important to set boundaries. Remember, if somebody asks you to work, find like your go-to easy that works for you. Like, hey, let me check my schedule. I'll get back to you. Or, like my husband said, let me check with my wife to see if we have anything planned already. So yeah, just, find what works best for you. And even in your personal life, you can do the same thing. Like, oh, well, let me see. You say, well, let me see if I have to work that day. Or hell, you can even say, hey, I'm on, I may have to work. I don't know. Like, just make up some, like, I hate to say make up a lie, but I mean, come up with something that works for you. That's not necessarily a lie, but it buys you more time to be able to figure out if, it's something that you can mentally do. Like if it falls into what works best for you, if it falls into your boundary lines. And like I said, I'm working on that myself of putting too much on my plate. I have a few things that I want to do, but right now my plate's a little full. So I will be waiting, once I finish with this, then, I may start looking into something else, or I may wait for a couple of things to be off my plate before I start looking into those things. So I get it. We're all working on this. So, and I will tell you, once you start setting boundaries, you are going to upset people. Who cares? They're just upset because you're saying no to them. They're used to you being a pushover. Don't let that affect you. Set your boundaries. Do what's best for you. Okay. All right. Now remember, if you need help, there's Lifeboat on NOMV, Not More Vet website. You can reach out. Gives you peer-to-peer support within 24 hours. If you need to speak to someone before then, call 988. Or you can text home at 741 or home to 741-741. Okay. All right. Until next week, guys. I will see you and take care.